This is Romney Marsh on the south coast of Britain. It's an historic area, once largely floodland. It's characterized by its lush grass and the sheep that graze there. But for the last 50 years, it's had another claim to fame, for it's the home of the smallest public railway in the world. This is where it all began, at Brooklands. Two racing drivers, both railway enthusiasts, decided to combine their love of speed and their love of small-scale railways. One was an Englishman, Captain Howe. The other, a Polish count by the name of Zabrowski, who raced a car now world-famous called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. In 1924, Count Zabrowski was killed at Monza, and Captain Howe carried on with the project alone. The railway was completed in 1928. After the opening, the original works engine, the Bug, was sold to a fun fair and allowed to get like this. Happily, it was reclaimed and restored to its former glory. It's now on show and is put in steam on special occasions. All 9 other original engines are still at work today. Green Goddess, delivered in 1925. And Northern Chief were the first 2. Southern Maid, Hercules, Samson, Typhoon, and Hurricane followed in 1927. 2 American-style locos were added in 1931, their larger cabs providing better protection for their drivers on wet and windy days. Then, in 1939, came the war. Hercules was armour-plated, and the army ran the railway. An anti-aircraft train was built, and material for Pluto, pipeline under the ocean, which carried a direct fuel supply from England to the Normandy beachhead, was transported. The pipes themselves were welded at New Romney Station. After the war, the railway, much damaged, was handed back, and in 1946 came the grand reopening. The 21st birthday was celebrated 1 year later with the doubtful assistance of Laurel and Hardy. The southeast corner is an historic part of Britain, and not far from the railway are the ports of entry at Dover and Folkestone. It's close to the airport at Lydd and the hovercraft terminals. Its route reflects the history of many hundreds of years, for the railway runs along the coast nearest to continental Europe, which has always formed the first line of defence against invasion. The history of the 5 fortified ports, known as the Cinque Ports, dates back to Roman times. Hastings was one of them, and it was close to here that William the Conqueror landed in 1066. Today, Hastings is a holiday place with a fishing harbour, where the old net-drying towers that Turner painted still stand. Another of the 5 was Dover, with its magnificent castle, which is open to the public. Romney, Hythe, and Sandwich make up the rest of the original 5 ports. 2 more were added later. Rye, with its cobbled streets and graceful church. And Winchelsea, with its massive gateway. This coast is lined with castles, like the one at Deal. Built in Tudor times, like most of the others, it's open to visitors. At Walmer, Sir Winston Churchill flew his flag as Lord Warden of the sunk ports, and one of the locomotives bears his name. But this coastline once had an infamous reputation as the haunt of smugglers landing cargoes of contraband, brandy, silks and tobacco from France. One legendary character, Dr. Sin, made famous in the books of Russell Thorndike, supposedly masterminded the operations in this area. He was also the rector of Dymchurch, the father of his flock in more senses than one. In his additional church role as Dean of the Peculiars, he often visited Rye, where he stayed at the Mermaid Inn. All over the marsh there are isolated inns where the smugglers met, made their plans and hid the loot from the prying eyes of the excise men. They were not above storing it in the lonely churches of the marsh, probably under the mythical guidance of the Reverend Dr. Sin. The arch-smuggler's name is remembered in another of the railway's locomotives, one of the two transatlantic outline Pacifics. Today, any organised smuggling that goes on is in other places than Hythe, where the railway's story really begins. The platforms are usually crowded with visitors of all ages. Now that diesels and electrics have superseded steam engines as motive power for Britain's national railways, there's still a great love of the things that were. Many railway preservation societies are operating steam-powered branch lines in narrow and standard gauges. Recently, a 10th locomotive, Black Prince, built in Germany, was purchased. Apart from this one and the two American-type engines, the other 7 are all based on express locomotives of the old London and North Eastern Railway, 1/3 full size. Soon after leaving Hythe Station, the traveller is reminded of the strategic importance of the area, for the railway is laid alongside the Royal Military Canal, built as a defence work to counter Napoleon's threatened invasion. Nearby are the coastal defences of that time, the Martello Towers. The little trains wind their way past some of the many holiday amenities of the area before moving out into the open countryside. Soon, New Cut Dyke is reached, one of the many drainage channels which have made the cultivation of the marsh possible. All along the route, one gets an impression of the character of the marsh, and it becomes easier to appreciate the difficulty which the old excise men had in tracking down the smugglers. The 13.5 miles from Hythe to Dungeness makes the line by far the longest 15-inch gauge railway in the world. And so to the first stop at Dymchurch. The station is always a busy one, with the train to Hythe passing the one to Dungeness. Nearby is Lymm Castle, built in 1380. Today, this is a popular place for holidaymakers to visit. Just down the road is Port Lymm, a magnificent estate with a fine house and gardens. In recent times, the estate has been given over to a wildlife park which houses many exotic beasts. Youngsters are always popular, and this baby rhinoceros is no exception. And the elephants draw a big crowd. During the summer and at holiday times, the service is intensive, and all the little locos are rostered to cope with the traffic. On the way, you can enjoy the comfort of the buffet car. How the Reverend Dr. Sin would have loved to supply it, duty-free. At St. Mary's Bay, another holiday resort, there are always passengers to collect. And now to New Romney, 8.5 miles from Hythe. New Romney is the biggest station and the nerve centre of the line, where all the workshops and administrative offices are situated. It has a restaurant and shops where souvenirs, books and so on can be purchased. The main engine shed is also here, and locos are sometimes changed for the onward journey. For enthusiasts who want to look at and discuss the glories of steam, this is the place to be. One of the original Cinque Ports, now inland, the town of New Romney itself is worth a visit. On again towards Dungeness, first passing through a wooded area and then open pasture land. At Greatstone-on-Sea, there's further evidence of the railway's wartime service. From New Romney onwards, the track is single and serves a large holiday area. Now the marshland scenery has gone, and the track is laid direct onto the shingle, which is characteristic of the area. At the holiday camp, there's a loop where up and down trains can pass. Along this part of the coast, holiday facilities abound, and whatever you want to do, there are ways and places to do it. From the holiday camp, the line passes behind the houses, hopping across roads and providing the first views of the sea. Approaching Dungeness, the landscape becomes even stonier. This is the haunt of fishermen and those who seek peace and quiet. At Dungeness, a large loop makes it possible for the trains to continue directly on their return journey without reversing. Under the shadow of the old lighthouse is Dungeness Station, the end of the line. And the lighthouse is open to all who care to climb its 169 steps. Today, the 50-year-old railway, its locomotives as clean, smart and efficient as they were when they were built, still keeps the faith of Captain Howie and Count Zabrowski, alive in living steam. Small for its age, but still unique, the railway is loved by all those with a feeling for the era of steam. It's a perfect miniature reminder of the days that were.